Welcome back to part 2 of our ex3 Ultra Clean package design practice exercise, where we're going to be working with a lot of different effects. And where I left off in part 1 after the overview was I was clicking on this link. And what happens when I click on this link is it'll open up in Figma if you're logged in, and it'll say view only. And if it says view only, what you want to do is go to this little arrow and duplicate to your drafts. And then go down here to open, and that will open it up in your account. So it's part of your account now. And then also what you want to do is rename it so that it has your name in here. And I'll just put mine in here, Homa R, and that's it. So this is your Figma file. Let's just go over what's here. Here's your frame, and it's just basically it's a white frame. I did make a rectangle that has orange just in case when we bring it into Photopea we need to have it as a separate element. So it's locked, so it's basically an orange rectangle, and there it is. It's filled with orange. Now I could lock it because I don't need to mess with it, and we can color it in Photopea, so we don't have to worry about coloring things. This right now is Roboto Condensed Black, and it's real big. And by the way, if you look at your frame and you see, wow, this is 1400 by 1800. This is really big because since we're converting from vector to raster, when we open up in Photopea the Figma file, now in Illustrator it'll ask you what resolution you want, but it does not do that when we go from Figma. And because of that, I wanted to make sure we're in high resolution. So I did it whatever 4 times 72. So this is a kind of high resolution. So everything, when you work with text, you know, the text is going to look like it's real big, but it's just because we have a larger pixels that we're working with here, so that when it opens up into Photopea, we'll have a lot of pixels to work with, and we won't have to worry about some of the text becoming pixelated. And that may not mean anything to you right now, but if you happen to see, it's very big in here. So we have Roboto Condensed Black. In old versions, I use something called Impact, which is a real common font. You probably even have Impact, but I wanted to use one of the Google fonts. And we can't actually condense things here, meaning we can't squash it in here in Figma. There's a couple things we can't do in Figma. We can't squash things unless we turn it into outlines, and I don't want to do that yet. And we can't skew things unless we use some kind of plugin, so we're going to do that in Photopea. But otherwise, we're going to put our starburst in here, and we could do a lot of layout in here. That's fine. But we'll do most of our effects. Even though we can do drop shadows, we could do strokes, we can't do multiple strokes. So if you put one stroke on here, even though it gives you a place to add them, it doesn't show multiple strokes on our text, which is odd. I don't know why they'd let you add multiple strokes if you can't see them, because you can't put them at different thicknesses. But we'll talk about that at some other point. But we can do that in Photopea. So we're going to take this file and then open it up in Photopea. But what I want to do first, other than just look at this stuff, and again, we could change all these colors in Photopea. So just because this is blue, it doesn't have to stay blue. We could do color overlay. Color overlay, we could put strokes, drop shadows, all that stuff we're going to do in Photopea. And what I'm going to do here is put a starburst. Now this is a little tricky because I had to look it up because they don't give you a lot of options to do that. It's kind of hard, but I did look it up, so you don't have to look it up now. So we're going to make a starburst. So you'd start with a star tool, and then now at first it just makes a star. If you hold shift, it'll kind of make it a perfect star. Now what it does have, and I had a hard time finding this, you can put this % here is the ratio of how deep they are, and there's a couple things. Actually, let me zoom in here to show you about the star. It's pretty interesting when you look at it. If you hover over it, there's this thing. You could round off the corners if you want, and that's fine. I mean, you wouldn't do that to a regular star, but you could kind of make a cool shape like that. We're not going to do that. This thing actually is the ratio. That's this percentage over here. So this thing can make the spikes longer, or the points. You can have more of a contrast between the inner and outer points. They call that inset and outset in Illustrator. It's really hard to do in Illustrator. They don't make it easy at all. And to add points in Illustrator, you have to hold the arrow key to add points. And here, you could just go over here. I think you could just hover over here and add points. You can also, just to point out, you can also grab this thing and just move in one direction. Up will add points, down will take away points. And if it's like too, pointy, then you could grab this thing and move it out. So that's kind of a starburst. That has like 19 points. Maybe you want even number, maybe you want 20. And then you can make the whole starburst bigger. You could bring it over here kind of off the page. Maybe you want it even sharper. You can make it sharper, you can make it bigger, whatever you want. Just make a starburst. Now, we're not going to change that in Photopea, so the shape itself, you could move it around, but I'm just going to put it here off to the corner and kind of crop it and then give it a color of like yellow for now. Remember, to make it a color, I'll just go in here to the kind of in between here and I'll just pick a yellow color. There's my starburst. So that just says star, and you could double click on it and you could call it starburst, although leaving it star is probably fine, but I'll call it starburst. And I have it on top of everything, so I have everything kind of in order here. So starburst on top, then ultra clean, then it's clean, then the weight, and then the orange background. So I'm putting a starburst here. I'll zoom out a little. There's my starburst. Click off of it. And then I could do something like my samples, like new and improved, whatever you want to do. Let's just type new and improved. And I'll go to my text tool and I'll click on here and I'll put new, and I'll use the ampersand, and I'll hit enter, and I'll do improved. Now I'll click off, and then it's selected. I can move it around. Now I'm going to put this here and rotate it. Now, because it's so far apart right now, you want that closer. What you could do down here, if you scroll down, it's this. It's actually the line height is what you change, not the paragraph spacing. That's actually space between paragraphs. So you use your line height here. And I'm going to go to the left. I'm just dragging to the left and getting it nice and close. Now you could put in caps if you want, but I'm just going to do it like that. And I'm going to center it. So I'm going to go down here and center the text. And maybe I want to capitalize new. Now there is settings to capitalize letters in here. I could use that, or I could have just, retyped it. And now I could even tighten the line height, because now I have that little nook there. So that looks pretty good. Now I cannot squash it in here. I can't grab this side and squash it because it only resizes the box. So I can't squash type in Figma unless I turn it into an outline, unless I flatten it. And the way you flatten it is you right click or you control click on a laptop and you choose flatten. And that means you can't really change the type anymore. So I don't want to do that yet, but that's the way you would squash things in Figma. Now I'm going to move it over here, and I can make the whole thing smaller. Now instead of changing the point size and all the stuff we did over here, I'm going to zoom in and go up here to the corner, and I'm going to rotate it a little. Now to rotate it, you could just go over on the corner, and now to scale it, use the scale tool. Go here to scale, and that way you could just kind of scale it like that, and it does keep it in proportion. And you could do something like that. Now we could even stretch it in Photopea if we want. If we want to stretch it and make it kind of taller. So whatever color you use here doesn't really matter. Now notice you can't change the text or the color or anything because I'm still on the move tool. So I'm going to go back to the move tool, and I'll go down here and I'll just give it a nice red color for now. Maybe I'll try to go a little orangey red. Not really orangey red, but just a little more, so it's pulling out a little of the orange color. Or maybe blue, or whatever. I'm not sure right now. So don't worry about drop shadows or anything in here. Keep it flat. That's all I'm doing is keeping it flat right now. We could put glows on it and things like that. Maybe I'll put a white glow on it and a stroke. All kinds of stuff we could do. Really cool stuff we're going to do in Photopea. We're kind of creating the basics here. Basic text and layout. And even rotating this and skewing it, we're going to do that in Photopea as well. So we're going to do all the effects. This is just kind of our bare bones kind of start here. And, sometimes we will do it that way. Sometimes we're going to do more design work in here and then just add images later. But since we're doing a lot of work to the text, we're going to do that in Photopea. So what's the next step here? Well, you don't have to save. This is fine. This is all you have to do in Figma for now. You don't have to save it because it auto saves. And remember, if you ever have to stop in the middle, just go back to Files and then reopen it. If you ever don't see it, go to Recents and then just double click on it and open it up. And we're going to take this into Photopea. And we're just going to open it in Photopea. But you can't just open the link. You actually have to make a file. So here's how we're going to make a file. We're going to go into Files over here, File, and we're not exporting. It's not an export version, anything like that. We're going to do Save Local Copy. And what it will do is download a FIG file, F-I-G, to your downloads. So we're just going to do that. So hopefully everything's okay here. And Again, we could change colors, even text and stuff like that, because it will still translate as text. Sometimes we have some font issues that we're going to have to correct in Photopea, but let's save a local copy. And there it is. And that's in my downloads right now, and I'm going to open that up in Photopea. So in Photopea, I'm going to go find Photopea, and let me look at my instructions here. Starburst, fill it yellow, new and improved. Again, I should put an ampersand there. And then we just did this. So this is what we just did. Now we're going to open the Fig file. I'm going to do that, and then I'll stop and I'll take a break, and that'll be the end of part 2. So before I close up Figma, let me open up Photopea. And I'm going to close this up so I have more room in my interface. And we're going to open. So we're going to open from computer, and we're going to open up Figma file. And by the way, this is where you can kind of connect things to Google Drive, shared drives, OneDrive, Dropbox, even P Drive. I'm not sure what P Drive is, but I think they do give you some space. Now, they didn't used to, but I think they have something called P Drive, where I think you get like 500 megabyte for a free account, and if you pay $5 a month, you get like 5 gig. I don't know if it's worth doing that, although $5 a month is better than, you know, $29.99 a month for Adobe. But if you have your own space anyway, why would you pay for P Drive space? We're doing a lot here for free, so it's a pretty cool program. Anyway, we're going to open from computer, and we're going to open up that Fig file, and in mine, it was in my downloads. So there it is, Fig. And I'll open it, and it's having some issues with some of the fonts, and you can see they're having issues with the fonts, and we'll fix that. And we have the fonts available, most of them. It's just they don't translate right away, and it looks like, actually, this is good to check out. It had a problem with my starburst. I'm going to fix that. Actually, I'm glad I did this, because you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to close this. And I'm going to go back to my Fig. That's why I didn't close it yet. I'm going to go here, and I'm going to flatten it if I can. And I'll just go here. I think if I edit object, this should flatten it. Or let me right-click on it. Let's see if they have a flatten. I'll flatten it, and then I'll go here, and I should see anchor points. And what I mean by flatten is it's not in that editable mode anymore. You can't adjust how many points there are and all that. Now it's vector. And that way it'll translate better. And actually, if you want to do this, I'm going to hit done because I hit edit object. So now it's vector, and it just has anchor points. So I can't add stars, I can't add points, I can't change the thickness. But anyway, that's because I went here and I saw what it looked like. Well, I closed that up. Now this thing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten this so it stays exactly as it is. I could still change the color, but the font as it is, I'm going to convert it to outline. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to flatten. Okay, so when I click on it, I don't see text information. And when I go into Photopea, it'll just look like that, or it should. But I can't change any of the text. I'm going to leave this alone, and we'll just kind of convert that to the right font in Photopea. So anyway, that means if I'm doing this again, I want to go to my downloads, and just so I don't have too many files in here, I'm going to go to my downloads, and I'm going to delete this. So let me delete this. If you're going to do it again, if you're going to export another Fig, then delete that one because I think it'll put a 1 after it. So now I'm going to do that again. Now I'm only doing that because the first time I tried it, I didn't see the issue with the starburst, but that's why we're making another one. So you don't have to do that. Hopefully, if you watch the video ahead of time, we'll do that. Maybe I'll put a note in the video that, you know, right-click flatten this so that you see later. So anyway, let's export it again. That's over here, and we're going to do File, Save Local Copy, not Export, but Local Copy, Save Local Copy, and there it is, and it's in my downloads. And I'll just close this thing up, and I'll go back to Photopea, and I'll open from computer again. And there it is, and let's see what it looks like when it translates. You still have an issue with some fonts, still have an issue with that. Some weird crossover stuff there when it converted to outlines. So I don't know, we might have to fix that. And this thing, let's go into here, let's fix this font. So let's go here to where it has the T thing, and saying Roboto Roman, but let's go down here. Let's go right on where it says Roboto, and it says fine. I'm going to put Roboto. And we do have Roboto. And I am going to go to regular. I'm going to change it to black. And that looks better. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to go to this one, the It's Clean, and go right here where it's doing Roman and do rubato, and it's doing black. And the reason it has a problem, it doesn't look like it has the condensed black, it just has black. And that's okay. I think that looks okay. This one, if we want to squash it, I'll show you how to do this. Now, I'm on the text tool right here. Click on that. Oh, one thing I want to point out, even before I get to that. Notice how I have more room in my layers here. You can hide stuff. And if you go window, it doesn't work if you just do it here. If I go to adjustments, and there's adjustments. Now, if you don't want these adjustments here, you're not using them, they're in your way, you want more room for your layers, that's what I did. You can't go in between here and drag them like you can in Photoshop. And if you just go to window adjustments, it doesn't make that go away. What you have to do is, I think, right click on it and close. And then it closes. And then you could bring it back by going window adjustments. That brings it back. But to close it, you have to right click on it to close. It doesn't move things around, and it doesn't close just by going to window. So if you want more room in here, you want your swatches, it's nice to have history up here. You have all these other things in here like text and stuff like that, that you click on, it comes out, and then it goes away. And what is this? This is brush palette. I don't always use a lot of these things, so what is that? That's gallery of images. I'm not going to be using that right now. But anyway, that's how you get rid of that. And if you want to squash this, if you just go like this, it's going to scale it. Photopea does now is it keeps everything in proportion. So when you grab it, you don't have to hold shift. So you do the opposite. When you hold shift, it actually squashes it. So I'm going to hold shift and squash it and make it kind of bolder and just kind of move it around a little. And you could even make it bigger too. So if you grab on the corner without holding shift, it'll go up here. And I'll move it up a little. And since I scaled it, I should use the checkbox or just use the check mark or just hit enter. And now I'm seeing my regular controls here. Now something else we're going to do, I think this is cool, we're going to skew this. And we're not going to put an italic, we're just going to skew it. And if you go here to the middle handle, I'll zoom in just a little here, the middle handle, and you hold control. Now let me know on Windows if it's different, try something else, but if you hold control, I'm on a Mac and control's working, and you drag up, it's skewing it. You see what it's doing? It's skewing it. Now, we're not rotating it, we're skewing it. Just making it up there to make it look more dynamic. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. Now I have to enter because that's like that's a distortion, that's a scale that we just did. And then if I click on this one, if I hold control on the middle handle and drag it up, I'm going to try to do it right in the same place. And you can see I could still like squash it if I want. And I want to keep it in the same angle, and I could even make it bigger. But it is a tagline, so it's clean. It should really say laundry detergent or something, really. Here it should say laundry detergent. But I have always had it just say it's clean, ultra clean. But if you want to type in laundry detergent, you can, and do a tagline somewhere else. I guess I never thought of that. I believe all these years I've been doing this, I never thought of putting laundry detergent. But I don't know, most people are going to spell it wrong. If I had just spelled laundry detergent, you'd probably spell it wrong. So let me put that in there. Ultra clean, it's clean. Again, it's just practice, so this isn't for real. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that. That's kind of weird. Yeah, I'll have to fix that. Maybe we could just fill it in or something. It's just bizarre that that thing went in there. But this is what I'm going to do first. Now, I did all this stuff, but make sure you save it. We didn't save the Photoshop file. We opened up the Figma file, but it's not doing anything to the Figma file, because you're rasterizing in here. So make sure you do this. We're going to do File, Save as PSD, and I'm going to save it somewhere on my hard drive. You can get rid of the Fig. You don't need Fig in there. And I'm going to save it in Spring 2023, GRD 122, wherever you've been keeping anything. I'll just put it in notes right now. I think I have an ultra clean folder. Let's see what else I have in there. I might have a file in there already. I'm just going to put SP23. You don't have to do that, but I'm just doing it just so I know that this is the newest one that I'm working on. So you don't have to do SP23, but I'm putting that in there, and I'll hit save. So now that's where I'm going to keep working on it. If I have to close it and come back to it, we'll do some things here. So let's try this. This wasn't part of the plan. Let's put a stroke on here. Let's go to layer. We're going to be doing a lot of this. Layer, layer style, stroke. And you're going to move this out of the way, and you might want to zoom in a little on this. And I'll just make a white stroke for now. So down here where it has stroke, we'll change it to white. And we want it on the outside. And I'll hit OK. Make sure you hit OK on the color first, then change this. I'll make it a little thicker. You could even put a drop shadow on it if you want. You go down here, put drop shadow. Now I'm going to turn off global angle, and I'm going to get the distance a little closer. We don't want very much size or distance on there. Let me change it so it goes over a little. And don't want a lot of size. So turning down the size makes it sharper. Size is blur, so size I don't want a lot. Just a little bit, and just a little. I like to keep them the same. So if that's 12, I'll make this 12. And I'll zoom out a little. Can you command minus? Yeah, you can zoom out while this is on. And that looks pretty good. You can move it around. You could make it larger. I could hit OK. If you want to make it larger, you could kind of drag it, make it larger if you want. Put it up there, and that's okay. That'll work for now. You could even have new improve cropped off or something. You could even move the, now I scaled it, so I have to hit enter. Now I could even bring this thing, the starburst, over a little more if I wanted to. And then, remember, you don't have to hit enter when you move something, only when you scale it. So I'll move this back, and that looks okay up there. Let's try something else. We'll try all kinds of cool stuff with this. Let's go on the starburst. Let's keep this color yellow and maybe make it white in the inside. How would you do that? And put a stroke on it. Put like a lime stroke on it. Let's try a bunch of cool stuff. Let's go to layer, layer style, and let's try a cool stroke. And we'll make it lime green. Go something like that. Make it kind of a limey green. I'll hit OK. And maybe we have it, we'll put it on the inside. And I'll make it thicker. Now that's not a really great color because it's not contrasty enough. So I'm going to change it and make it maybe a little, maybe I'll go with a blue color. See what that looks like. Too much, obviously. Yeah, I could select on that. I'll select on that and make it a little darker, hit OK. And you can even turn down the opacity a little bit. I'm not sure about the stroke, but we can throw a drop shadow on it if you want. Let's try drop shadow. That looks okay. Let's turn down the opacity a little bit. And now it used the same angle as we used on the text, which is fine. And let's say I'm looking at that blue, I don't like it. Then go back to the stroke, click on the blue, and make it lighter. Can I move this around? Yeah, I can move it around. I'll make this a little lighter. I'll go in this more aqua color. Go back a little. Now, it looks a little odd, but that's the whole idea. We're going to experiment a little bit. And I'll hit OK. I don't want to bring too much attention to this new and improved. Maybe I'd want that orange color on the end. Actually, let me try this. Let me go here, move this, and then actually click right on that red color. And it takes that red color. Now that's okay, except now maybe it's a little too thick. I'll just kind of turn it down a little. And maybe even turn the opacity down a little. So it's not as noticeable. Now it's a little more like the background. That's okay, I guess. And another thing I said, we'll try different things. Let's try gradient overlay on this. And now what's that? Well, if you click on gradient overlay, it makes it black and white. Now, if you don't like it, you just turn it off. It goes back to normal. But if you want to try something, you can go here to say radial. Now, it's black in the middle and white on the outside. And to change it, you click right on the gradient here. Move this around. And the inner color, maybe I'm going to do white. So I'm clicking here, and I'm going to choose white. Do I have white down here? No, I don't. So I have to go up here. And I'll hit OK. So there it's white in the middle. Now over here, maybe I'll go back to that yellow color again. So I'll click here, and I'll click on the color. And I'll just click yellow down here, and I'll move it around. See what this looks like. I cut off my yellow. And if I want a little more orangey yellow, I can move here, do something like that. See, now it has a gradient overlay on it. I'll hit OK. Let me go back to this one. Actually, I was trying to move that dot. It doesn't move the dot. You put it where you want, and the dot will go where you are. So again, some of this stuff I'm still learning too, so that's all right. You don't move the dot. You go where you want the dot to move. So I'll move that. I'll hit OK. And then I'll hit OK for the gradient editor. And again, you can make it more contrasty. You could bring this in the middle and this in the middle. Make it a little more contrasty if you want. Make it more yellow. And make a smaller little kind of burst there. So that's adjusting the gradient. I'll hit OK. And then finally, I'm out of my layer style. Now these are all layer styles for the starburst. They're all the effects that are in there. Stroke, and I could go back and edit any one of them at any time. So the effects for new and improved, I have the stroke, the drop shadow, and then I have starburst effects. So that's just there. So let me zoom out a little bit. And those are just the effects for that. So what we're going to do next is do some effects with the text. And then we'll do the pop dots, which will be pretty cool. I'll do that as its own video. And then we'll start bringing in our images. So that'll be another video. So that's the end of part 2, getting started in Photopea, our PSD file with Photopea. And we had some issues in the transformation. We had to convert our starburst to vector to flatten it because it was having issues. It just looked at it as the original star. And then I had some problems with the text here when I converted to outline. So that's going to be something I'll have to explore a little bit more. So lots of things we're learning here in our transition from vector, which we did in Figma, to Photopea, which we're now working with pixels. So we're going to come back in part 3 and we're going to do some cool stuff with the text in the middle here. Not the pop dots yet. We're going to just start working with some of the text here, do some outline, strokes, bevel and emboss, things like that. Then we'll get back to the pop dots in probably part 4. So part 3, we're going to do this stuff. So we'll see you in part 3. And make sure you save. File, save if you're working off your local computer. That way, if you have to do something, go somewhere, you can come back and open it up later.